Hello, everyone. Smokey Robinson has been one of the most beloved and respected voices in the history of American music. A man whose silky falsetto, poetic lyrics, and endless charm made him the heart of Motown and the soul of R&B. From his early days as the frontman of the Miracles to his later career as a solo artist and record executive, Smokey's gentle spirit and diplomatic nature made it seem almost impossible to imagine him harboring ill will toward anyone in the industry. But behind that calm, polished smile and soft-spoken demeanor, there were rivalries, betrayals, and artistic clashes that even Smokey himself could no longer ignore. In a rare and emotional conversation that stunned fans, Smokey finally broke his silence, revealing the truth about the music industry's darker side, and admitting that there were, in fact, 10 singers he simply couldn't stand working with or being around. His confession wasn't about pettiness or jealousy. It was about the pain of being a man who built his life around love and unity, only to find himself betrayed, disrespected, and misunderstood by those he once called peers and friends. To understand the weight of Smokey's revelation, you have to go back to the beginning, to Detroit in the late 1950s, when a young William Smokey Robinson was just a kid with a notebook full of songs and dreams bigger than the city itself. He met Berry Gordy, a struggling songwriter who shared his ambition to build something great, and together they built Motown Records, a musical empire that would change the world. Smokey became the label's heart, writing and producing timeless hits not only for the Miracles, but also for the Temptations, Marvin Gaye, Mary Wells, and countless others. But behind those perfectly polished harmonies, tensions often brewed. Smokey admitted that his first taste of bitterness came when he realized how quickly success could turn friends into rivals. Fame, he said, has a strange way of changing people, even the most humble. The first singer Smokey mentioned in his revelation was someone he had immense respect for, but who repeatedly undermined him behind the scenes. David Ruffin, the legendary but troubled lead singer of the Temptations. Smokey had written some of the Temptations' biggest early hits, including My Girl and The Way You Do the Things You Do. But Ruffin's ego quickly spiraled as the group's fame grew. David was one of the greatest voices I ever heard, Smokey admitted, but he couldn't handle success. He wanted all the spotlight, and he started to treat people badly. Smokey revealed that after Ruffin began skipping rehearsals, showing up late to shows, and demanding solo billing, their working relationship collapsed. "It broke my heart," he said. "I loved David like a brother, but I couldn't stand the man he became." The second name Smokey mentioned was another Motown star, Martha Reeves of Martha and the Vandellas. While Smokey had produced and written for several female acts at Motown, he and Martha clashed over creative direction. Martha was incredibly talented, Smokey said, but she had her own way of doing things. She didn't like being told how to sing a line or interpret a lyric. She wanted control, and at Motown, control wasn't something artists had much of back then. Their disagreements reportedly got so heated that Berry Gordy had to mediate, and after that, Smokey avoided working directly with her. "We just didn't mesh," he said. "I respected her gift, but we couldn't be in the same studio without arguing." The third singer on Smokey's list came as a shock to many, the late, great Marvin Gaye. To the public, Smokey and Marvin were brothers, both cornerstones of the Motown sound, but behind the scenes, Smokey revealed a complex and strained friendship. "Marvin was brilliant, but he could be moody," Smokey confessed. "He'd disappear for days, come back high as a kite, and start criticizing the way Motown ran. He called me a company man because I stayed loyal to Berry." Smokey said their friendship soured after Marvin began distancing himself from the label and accusing others of selling out. "He thought he was the only one with a message," Smokey said sadly. I admired his passion, but it hurt to see him turn cold toward everyone who cared about him. Number 4 was Eddie Kendricks, another member of the Temptations, whose smooth falsetto had once inspired Smokey himself. But after Eddie went solo, Smokey admitted their relationship fractured over creative envy. He told people I was holding him back, Smokey said. I never wanted him to succeed. But when people start believing their own hype, it's hard to reach them. The fifth singer Smokey mentioned was none other than Diana Ross, a name that still carries enormous weight in Motown history. For years, Smokey and Diana were close friends, and Smokey even mentored her early in her career. But as the Supremes' fame skyrocketed, so did Diana's reputation for being difficult. Diana was ambitious, Smokey said. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes ambition turns into arrogance. He recalled moments when Diana would take credit for decisions Berry Gordy or Smokey himself had made, and her growing closeness to Berry caused tension among the Motown family. She became untouchable, Smokey said. I couldn't stand the diva energy anymore. I had to step back. The sixth singer on Smokey's list came from outside the Motown circle, Jackie Wilson. While they had mutual respect, Smokey revealed that Wilson's personal attacks early in his career left deep scars. He used to mock me, Smokey said quietly. He said I sang like a girl, called me names. It fueled me, though. I wanted to prove him wrong. Despite their differences, Smokey later forgave him, calling Wilson one of the greatest performers who ever lived, but admitted the early resentment never fully faded. The seventh singer shocked many fans. It was Lionel Richie. Though both men had been ambassadors for Motown's softer, romantic sound, Smokey confessed their working relationship was icy. Lionel was competitive, he explained. He wanted to be the next Smokey, and I could feel that energy. I tried to mentor him, but sometimes people don't want your help. They want your spot. At number 8, Smokey named a surprising figure, Michael Jackson. He loved Michael dearly, but admitted that after the King of Pop's solo fame exploded, Michael changed. Michael was like a son to all of us, Smokey said, but fame consumed him. He became paranoid, distant, and surrounded by people who didn't tell him the truth. There were times I'd call him, and he wouldn't answer for months. I didn't hate him as a person. I hated what fame did to him. The ninth singer Smokey mentioned was Rick James, an artist who came up under Motown but embodied the rebellion of a new era. Rick was wild, Smokey recalled. He had talent for days, but he didn't respect anybody. He called me old school and said my music was outdated. That hurt because I was one of the people who fought for artists like him to have a voice. Smokey admitted their feud lasted years, though they made peace before Rick's passing. Finally, the 10th name on Smokey's list wasn't a single singer. It was a category, the new generation of R&B artists who, in his words, forgot where the music came from. Smokey's frustration wasn't with talent, but with attitude. I see singers today who don't write, don't play instruments, and don't give credit to the legends who paved the way. They call themselves soulful, but soul isn't something you copy. It's something you live. Still, even as Smokey revealed the names of those he struggled with, he made one thing clear. Hatred isn't the same as resentment. I don't hate anyone, he said softly. Hate is poison, but I can dislike how people treated me or how they treated the music. His confession wasn't an exposé meant to stir drama. It was an unfiltered glimpse into the emotional cost of building a musical empire in a world driven by ego and power. When you've been around as long as I have, he said, you see people's true colors. Fame changes most people. I just tried not to let it change me. In the end, Smokey Robinson's list wasn't really about animosity. It was about truth. It was a reflection on how even legends carry wounds that never fully heal, how creativity and ego often clash, and how the music industry's greatest gift, collaboration, can also be its greatest curse. And as Smokey concluded his confession, his voice trembled not with anger, but with peace. "I've learned to forgive," he said, "because at the end of the day, love is all I ever wanted to sing about. Even when people hurt me, love was still my message. That's who I am, and that's who I'll always be." Thanks for watching.